So good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining our April conference. I am very excited to introduce our speaker today. She is Evelyn Pearman. She's a close friend and someone who has helped me to actually get over my fears. And I hope you enjoy Miss Evelyn Pearman's speech entitled Area Director Who Went to Prison in 2017, Area Director Who Went to Prison in 2017, Evelyn Pearman.
What was that? Thank you. And I do want to say thank you all for your patience and for you showing up tonight. It's amazing that, every time this happens. So thank you so much, and thank you so much for all of your support over the years. I know that my members have told me that that means a lot to them, and I want to make sure that I say thank you. What was the first prison movie you ever saw? Was it in a theater, or was it on TV? And why do you remember those movies and those characters? Well, I know that from talking to you that if your Toastmaster clubs are anything like mine, you have a lot of characters as well. I want to set the stage in this 20-minute to 30-minute talk, starting with where, when, and how all of this started and the background of original prison clubs. Why your donations is about more than money, and how I got involved and why I stay involved. Why this is important is not just my personal bias. If you know details that I don't mention or that I misquote, if you have a personal testimony that can be shared in a timed 2-minute table topic, put them in the chat and we'll work to address them in the second part of my speech. To set the stage, let me start with where. Halfway between St. Louis and Kansas City, Missouri, on I-70 is Columbia, Missouri. 30 miles south is Jefferson City, and that is where the walls were. It was a state penitentiary that in 1967, Time magazine named it the bloodiest 47 acres in America. To be sent to this facility was terrifying, and many did not make it out. The Walls was a state-run, level 5 maximum security prison. A college professor that I spoke with last week told us that he took his law enforcement students to one of the tours there earlier this month. In my words, he described a sobering, eye-opening experience. The thought that men actually endured this place at one time is undescribable. Toastmasters gave many a reason to press on while they lived there. In my research for this speech, I came across a short paper published in the January 1999 edition of Toastmaster magazine by Baton Rouge, Louisiana District Judge Robert Downing. He stated, I had determined after 3 years of research that inmates have very low self-esteem and very poor verbal skills, and that people who do not like themselves and who cannot express themselves verbally resort to physical expression. They beat people up instead of talking them out of the problem, especially with other prisoners. In the mid to late 1980s, dedicated members of the Capitol Club believed in these men and worked hard to start the first prison club in Toastmasters called Alpha Club. It was for members and general population at the Walls. To be a member, you had to welcome everyone. This club required members to cross all social barriers. It was a true non-discrimination experiment that worked. All race, color, religions, age, gang affiliations, educational levels, social and financial statuses met together and participated in a weekly Toastmaster meeting. All were equal. It was just as much of a mind-bending experience for them as it is now to new guests. a blend of various gang leaders and members, various religious groups, all branches of the military, farmers, entrepreneurs, college professors, and a former CIA agent, and everyone in between looked forward to assembling together to encourage each other to press on and better themselves. They renounced gang affiliations, stayed out of the hole, and changed their behavior to be able to become members of this club. When a gang member renounces their affiliation, many of them expect their gang to put a hit on them. That means to be severely beaten or worse. When you know your life or personal safety is under threat in prison, you agree to enter PC, protective custody. For this and other reasons, several Alpha members who entered PC worked to charter the Omega Club. In 2004, at the current Jefferson City Correctional Center, referred to as JCCC, they opened and the walls closed permanently, and the Omega Club with it. Due to finances and other reasons, the original Alpha Club struggled for a time and lost that original charter. In 2010, the Omar Roberts and Dory Drummond Fund were created with Toastmasters International for the sole purpose of making sure the finances were available to inmates who wanted to join Toastmasters. At 25 cents to 35 cents an hour, you earn an average paycheck of $7.47 a month, $7.40 per month, at 33 hours a month. 25 cents per hour is only $7.40 a month. Toastmasters, as you have seen, will increase their dues to an average of $10 per month. Dues will now be more than their monthly income. Currently, each inmate is required to pay $11 every 6 months for dues to the ORDD District 8 Fund. Omar Roberts Dory Drummond Fund contributes the rest. Moberly Correctional Center does allow our club to hold fundraisers that generates their ability to donate to the fund every 6 months and hits the remainder of their dues. But that doesn't work at Alpha Club. Toulouse also donates money to other clubs and necessary things over at DOC according to their guidelines within the Moberly Club and the Moberly facility. Due to the generosity and support of Toastmasters and District 8, JCCC members and their dedicated volunteers in corrections, referred to as VICs, Volunteer in Corrections, continued on as a Gavel Club for a time, worked hard, and chartered the second Alpha Club in 2013. Meanwhile, 60 miles north of the walls, in Moberly, Missouri, former Alpha and Omega members chartered Toulouse Toastmaster Club. In October 1st of 1993, Toulouse will be celebrating 30 years in October of this year, 2023. The Moberly Correctional Facility is a Level 3, medium, state-run security facility. I first met Toulouse in 2017. I was around 6 months into Toastmasters when Natalie and Ralph convinced me that I could handle being an area director. Both stated that they had visited the prisons, and it's a good club. I was still cautious, and I had a high level of trepidation. And trepidation is a noun that means fear, apprehension, dread, alarm, anxiety, nervousness, misgivings, fright, and terror. Ralph, being one of the VICs who every other week would visit the Omega Club when they were still in operation, continuously told me, "No, you'll be all right. They're good guys." David Harrison and Dottie Carlson, who were the second of the two in that team going to Omega, also encouraged me to go in. Dottie was one of the champions for getting people to venture in and visit these clubs. Over the years, she, Omar Roberts, Dory Drummond, and other VICs visited all Toastmasters. They invited all Toastmasters to come and visit the clubs for contests, officer trainings, banquets, and other special events. I will stop here to specifically say that as a member of Toulouse, and knowing that Cynthia and Curtis Scroggins, we all appreciate you attending and visiting our clubs, that we would like you to continue to visit our clubs. It means a lot to our members. Why do I continue? I've noticed in our members that there is a continuous growth that they would not get otherwise. The majority of the men who visit regularly attend and are able to go on and join Toastmasters, who continue to work through their Toastmaster journey, are the top leaders at the prison. They're more than determined in improving themselves and also to help others to grow and change who are incarcerated. I want to go to a letter from a Louisiana judge. According to the criminal justice sources, 95% of crime is committed by criminals who have already been to prison. Since those released from prison commit the vast majority of crimes, and over 70% of those who go to prison become repeat offenders, it would seem that there would be a great deal of emphasis on reforming inmates while they're in prison. There's always been much talk about rehabilitation, but there has been very little funding for educational and other rehabilitation programs in our prisons. How can we lower the recidivism rate without additional resources from the state? He said that I had determined after 3 years of research that inmates have very low self-esteem and very poor verbal skills, and that people who do not like themselves and who cannot express themselves verbally resort to physical expression. They beat people up instead of talking out the problem with other prisoners. The really startling news, however, is that out of 60 inmates who were Toastmasters who had been released, this really startling news, however, was that out of 60 inmate Toastmasters who had been released from prison from 1986 to 1991, not one has been rearrested. Statistically, 70% should have been rearrested within 2 years of release. He went on to talk about how Toastmasters would not cost DOC any money for their inmates to participate. I'd like to stop here and ask if anyone has any questions. Does anyone have a...
Oh, go ahead, Karen.
I was going to say, Miss Evelyn, if anyone wanted to visit wanted to visit one of the clubs like Toulouse or Alpha, what would we need to do in order to be able to visit?
You'll want to contact either myself or Curtis Scroggins, and when you go to find a club and you look up the two clubs, Alpha or Toulouse, you will find our information in that contact list. You'll contact us, and usually it's probably by email, and we will give you the information. And what that would entail, at JCCC, you would call in, you give them the information, your name, your social security number, and any other information. Usually that's pretty much it. Maybe your driver's license number, and they do a background check on you. Usually there, it only takes 15 days for you to have clearance to attend. In Moberly, it's a paper process. And so I would have the IAC director right now, that's Brianna McCarty, and she would send you the email with the information, and it's a page. You send that in, and it takes 30 days for them to do the clearance to make sure you can get in. So this is the process it takes. Now, once you're in the system with either place or both places, then it's easier to get in because they have an idea of who you are. And is there anything else about that, Karen?
I have a question, Evelyn.
Yes.
Thank you for your work and especially lately Curtis and Cynthia's work, Curtis's Scroggins. My question is, when I have heard about other districts which have prison clubs, um, can you talk about the district which has the most prison clubs? And I believe that is 14 in their district, and the district leaders are very passionate about it.
I do not know who has the most. I do know on the West Coast that between Oregon, Washington, and Upper California, they have several clubs up there. They've been very successful because they have someone who's like a real important person from the district, and he has championed opening all the prison clubs that he can, and he wants to do as many as, get them all in that he can. So I do know that that's one of the largest areas, but I don't know their number.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, and people can find out, but I think it is one of the greatest service for which Toastmasters is recognized. And if we can support inmates, a lot of them are there because of the coincidences of ill fates and ill choices and conditions not working for them in the society. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have a testimony they'd like to share about their visit to one of the prison clubs?
Evelyn, I would love to share. I will say that I have visited Toulouse Toastmasters 2 times. I'm getting ready to have my 3rd visit here in May. The first visit was their award banquet. I believe it was in July, right, Evelyn? And oh, not July, but close enough. June. And it was my first time meeting Evelyn, as well as David Harrison, who's another liaison for the club. And I walked in by myself, went through the screening process of, having to get my ID, get the nice little blue stamp to make sure it's me when I want to leave. No one else has tried to pretend to be me. And I walked into the room. With a whole bunch of very friendly gentlemen. And this room was where they would do the visitations with their loved ones, friends, and family. And quite honestly, I was thinking to myself, where is all of the inmates? And it didn't really phase on to me for a while that, oh, they're already here. And it's really not that scary. I was asked later, to give a speech, and I had to share that, the biggest thing I had to get past was the stereotypes that, sometimes you learn from the prison movies or the TV shows of, oh, it's going to be really scary, but it's not. And when I returned again for the second visit, I was able to do a Toastmaster meeting with them. And I have never honestly seen such an attentive group. They want to grow, they want to learn, and they are really passionate. I was really impressed, and I'm excited to go back here on May 17th, I think it is, for my next visit to kind of help them grow some more by giving them some evaluation tips, and say, like my last evaluation, to share that piece of knowledge, and also just to show that there are people other than Evelyn and David that care about them, who will come out of their way to visit. And all I'm doing is I'm taking that business trip from St. Louis to Kansas City, and it's just a slight little detour off the road to get to Moberly, Missouri. Thank you, Evelyn, for letting me share the testimony.
Thanks, Sarah.
So Evelyn, if you allow, I would just like to share too that I have made it both to Alpha and to Toulouse, and I would say my visits to those 2 clubs probably rank amongst the highest or the most enjoyable adventures I've had within Toastmasters. to give you a little background, in one of our, I was in mid-year training and we were talking about what was your best club? If you were at a club, what would your best club be? And I shared with other districts leaders that I think if anybody was going to visit another club, it should be Alpha or Toulouse. The reason why is that the members appreciate each other, they're supportive of each other, they're enthusiastic, they're energetic, and they follow the procedures. And that, not that the procedures is the most important, but they are there for the right reason and they want to grow. So if you ever are having a ho-hum Toastmaster moment, I strongly urge you to find a way to go visit either Toulouse or Alpha Toastmasters, and you will find your way back home and regain a lot of passion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm not sure when Alpha is going to have their annual banquet. Toulouse expects to have theirs in June, but because of the prison system, we don't know exactly when at this time. I know that Alpha has several DTMs. I know that there are other people who did the legwork for them and met with those men and made sure that the proper paperwork was done, that they did their part of the job as much as possible. And so they have several people who have become DTMs, and this is a level 5 maximum security prison. Most of those men never expect to get out, and they achieve DTM. And many of them earned that right to be DTM through doing all the book work years ago. We had one at Toulouse who earned his in 2019 and was awarded that in a really nice ceremony. And so Toulouse has one. He was in our club. He was almost one of the charter members. He was there for so long, but he literally could have earned 3 DTMs. But the men that he inspired and the addition of support that he gave those men, in my opinion, was his greatest gift to Toastmasters and to the members of Toulouse. He inspired a lot of men, and he disciplined them, he trained them, he worked with them, and supported their journeys the time that they were in there, whether it was for 2 years or 6 years. And that's what really impressed me with him and why I knew he deserved the DTM award. And he was extremely proud for having earned that, and very appreciative of everything that the district did to make that happen for him. And that's the financial support as well. But it was the coming to the meetings. My very first meeting I went to as the area director, he was the one that said, "Can we have your second area contest here at the prison?" And the weight of anticipation I felt in that room with all these men looking at me, I knew that I couldn't say no. And then I was told, after I had accepted the challenge, was that I had to call the trio, which was Kat McCreacow, Elaine Curry, and James Childress, and ask them if they would come. And I think James Childress has made the 3-hour trip in and back home 3 hours. That's 6 hours of driving alone to make it to the club for those special events. And I cannot thank you enough for the moral support. When your family has cut you off and strangers are willing to say, "Hey, we still support you," that means a lot to my members. And I cannot say thank you enough.
Evelyn, a couple more hands went up during that. Is this a good time for some more questions?
Great.
Okay, Carl, you have the floor first, and then Elaine will start with you right after Carl.
Yeah, this is Carl Jalkin, and I'm in Mount Vernon, Illinois, Toastmasters Club. I'm also in District 12, Gilead Sciences, in Laverne, California. In District 12, we don't have a prison club that I know of. What we do is we have the drug rehab centers. One's called Twisted Sisters and one's called Goodfellas. And unfortunately, during COVID, they shut us down. So actually both clubs went under, right? But now we're trying to get them reestablished. Hopefully TI will help us get those reestablished. But I actually helped out the people who did it. And just like the prison clubs, the difference with the drug rehab, they're only there for 3 months, so they don't complete anything. But what we try to get them to do is to open up. And essentially the people who are there asked for it, because what they found is the people who participated in the program, they weren't the ones who were showing back up there, right? Because they actually learned how to say no, and they learned that making decisions and leadership. And I think Toastmasters, I don't know if in District 8 we have drug rehab centers in the area, but I would suggest also either having Gavel clubs or Toastmasters clubs for those. Even though it's short term, I think you can do a lot in 3 months by listening to other people and actually learning from each other. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Elaine, you're next, and I see we have a third hand. So these are great questions. So thank you for asking. We want to break the fears of prison clubs and why actually it's not too bad. So go right ahead, Elaine.
Absolutely. Evelyn, great job in educating us on the prison clubs in District 8. I had the privilege of being able to put the ribbon around the neck in 2019 of one of the DTM members. And I recall when I was scheduled to do that, coming into the prison, there were certain rules that were mentioned, and it's kind of makes you feel a little bit fearful because what they're saying, you shouldn't touch them, you shouldn't hug them. And I thought, how am I going to put a DTM ribbon around somebody's neck and not want to reach out and hug them? So I thought, I will do that and ask for forgiveness later. And the feeling, the spirit that you could feel when everybody saw him getting that ribbon put around his neck. And I knew that they weren't going to let him keep it in there, but it was just that moment. And I just want to say that sometimes we're given certain stigmatizing information that makes you forget they are normal people who have made mistakes and who many of them spent years and years rehabilitated, and we don't think about the fact that they deserve that chance. And I just want to say I'm very appreciative of both you and the Scroggins, because I know how long you've dedicated your time to doing the service of the Toastmasters clubs, and it's just a privilege and an honor to see that Toastmasters has taken the step, taken the courage, and is making a difference. So once again, thank you.
Thank you. I know, Maureen, you have your hand up, but you're muted. Awesome.
Sure. My question is, do they have the same kind of goals as every Toastmasters club has? Do they have to have like 20 members? And, you know, I hope they don't have to get more members, of course. You know, 'cause, you know, less people in prison would be a good thing. But do they have those same type of goals that everyone has to go through? They have to seek more members is what I'm asking.
Yes, after we reopened, the transfers that have happened since then, it's been ridiculous, but a lot of our guys went home. So of the 25 members we had when I first started attending, there are only three of them that remain now, and one of them is a VIC. We always make our new member points because these guys are constantly recruiting, and there are so many guys there in this facility who are looking for something that will give them a reason to improve themselves. This past week on Tuesday when we had our meeting, I asked them what would you want me to convey? And one of them said, the banquet alone is enough to stay out of the hole, meaning solitary confinement because you did something wrong. And he regularly goes there prior to now. And since even visiting our club, he's still had some issues. And our members have talked to him, and he said that he's extremely motivated now to change and to stay out of solitary confinement. Another thing, though, that he said was he really looks forward to this meeting every week because it's one of the few places where you can feel normal in prison. When they leave my meeting, they go back to their homes, where they live in their cells, and they're with 4 guys, and they hear everything, they see everything. It's really crazy. And so meeting with outsiders means a lot to these guys because they feel normal for a few hours. And that's one of the things that they really look forward to. I know that one of my guys was so quiet and reserved and angry. And when he talked to Karen and to RJ and to Sarah and to these different people at the meeting, I saw a completely different man come out of his shell, and he has not been the same since, and he's our current president. And he has changed so much in the last 4 years. But after that meeting with you guys, he has changed so much because it restored his dignity. It restored his dignity. He used to lead the submarines out from when they went out of port. And he used to be the guy in charge, leading them out. And this is just devastating. And he has so changed. I can't express to you how grateful I am for you guys coming in and making them feel normal and respected again, because they lost all of that when they went to prison. You lose everything of your military career that you earned when you go to prison. Just the way it is. So, and I do put the caution out there. These men are there for a reason. Very few are innocent, and they know that, but it does not define their entire life, and it shouldn't define their entire life. If they continue, then that's on them. But the ones who really want to change, by giving them the opportunity to redeem themselves and to redefine who they are and communicate that, it's life-changing. It's really life-changing.
I have a quick question, Evelyn, so that everyone who is here can understand. To have those meetings on a regular basis, a liaison is always needed, correct?
The second part again?
A liaison is always needed to attend that meeting, like Curtis goes to every meeting every time?
Yes, there has to be a sponsor or a VIC present, yes.
Okay. So I want people to understand that it is not just one time that you go and visit a liaison. And I think, Evelyn, you are have been a liaison yourself also.
Yes, since 2017.
Since 2017, okay. So a liaison goes every week, and I mean, every time the club meetings happens, and they have to be there to conduct the meeting as a Toastmasters.
Yes.
Thank you.
At least one person has to be there. So I know Curtis has been doing it for decades now, and David Harrison with Dottie Carlson, they did it for decades. And the dedication, and how do I put it? If we're all where we're supposed to be, then the world gets taken care of. And I get to go in and do this job and represent them. But you're needed wherever you're going and whatever work that you're doing. And I don't feel special for doing it. I know it's where I belong. And I'm grateful to get to do it. Well, I know we need to get ready for the next part of our program.
Thank you, Evelyn. I think the last part you said, it means that we all need to do it. It's not just a few people who needs to continue to do it. We all need to participate.
Where we're supposed to be. So if you're going to nursing homes, if you're going to hospitals, if you're visiting people in prison, if you're going to work every day and doing your job, that's necessary. And so if you're where you're supposed to be doing what you do to the best of your ability, I'm grateful. one last aside, Department of Corrections needs help. And by VICs going into the prisons, the support that that gives them to have one guy quit causing trouble, 20 guys quit causing trouble, that they're happy and satisfied and they're helping others to calm down when they go back into general population. I think that's another reason why I'm also determined to go in, because the help that it gives the staff and the COs at the end of the day. So it does have a ripple effect to the facility. Karen or Sarah, I will turn it back over to you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Evelyn, again, for giving a little bit of your time. I know you worked really hard with Curtis and David, the liaison, and well, the liaisons I know you were working with. You also worked really hard with sharing from the Toulouse Toastmasters what they wanted to get across in this presentation. Was there anything from the Toulouse Toastmasters that we may have missed that you wanted to make sure we covered?
At this moment, I'm glad that I got through what I did, and I appreciate everyone from hanging in there and supporting us. So that's really what they would want me to say. So thank you so much.
Yeah. And hopefully you can join them in their end of the year celebrations. They do the officer swearing in at that time where they celebrate the current officers, and then they pass the gavel to the next set of officers. And it's a really great event to attend. So if you're able to attend, I know that in the past trio, they had it posted as soon as possible. I am sure Karen will have that posted as soon as possible once we get the date from both Evelyn and Curtis, so that way you can try to make an effort. I'm sure there will be other people who are going, so if you want to carpool, there will be carpools available if you don't want to make the drive by yourself in that evening. So please give everyone, give Evelyn a round of applause or silent applause, depending on if you can get off mute. And Evelyn, thank you so much for taking this time. And it was a great presentation. And again, thank you for everyone who's contributed so far. Every little bit helps. And we'll keep bringing it up throughout the conference. It doesn't take much for you to donate, because you have to think how many members we have in District 8. If we just say 1,000 people donate $5, that's $5,000. That's more than even our goals. I mean, give what you can. If you can give a little more, great. But if you can't give that much, just give a little bit. It helps, and it goes a long way. Well, thank you, Evelyn. At this point, I'm going to stop the recording, and